Come on, get them views up.
Mine always seems to take a while, and then it'll say live, and then always a while before people come up or comment.
Of course it is, yeah.
Hi Julie, thank you. Yours is the first comment I can only see at the moment. I'm at Shepistion Lane, Hayes. As many as you know, this is the murder scene, because that's what it was, of our dear boys, Josh, Harry and George. And today I have with me, let's turn this around, there. I have with me John Lawrence, who's come all the way up from Oldham. And he was here earlier on filming and informing the people who follow him on YouTube that the story of our boys, just to get it out even further, because as you know I'm shadow banned. So John Lawrence has come all the way here to do that, and I've come here with him this evening, and you know John's filming as well and going to ask me some questions as we do it, and I thought I'd bring you on the live as well so you can watch. You can see John Lawrence, because everyone living in Oldham, it's councillor you're going to be running for, isn't it?
It certainly is local council elections in Oldham next year. I'm registered on the 1st of December, and I just want people to stand up, and I want to stand up to show them that we're going to try our best and to get into the council. Oldham's at the moment it's on a knife edge in Oldham, and Labour are losing the grip to the independents, so I'm going to join in with them independents, but I'll have my own political party. But I just want to try and do what's best, and I've had a bit of experience now as being a vote agent, and I'm a very experienced canvasser. I've got a plan, we've picked out our area, and we're going to start hitting that area before Christmas, so watch out for me in Oldham, please. Vote for Big John, hashtag vote for Big John.
Thank you everyone. John's been someone who's been active. You've been active for what, 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, well, pre-referendum 2015, very active.
Yeah, and always been standing up for the people, for what's right. The same thing we do, the same thing I do in highlighting what happened to my son and his 2 friends that night to you, because you was lied to. So I'm not going to talk as much to you, because I'm going to be speaking to John and answering any questions he wants to ask me, but at the same time you will also be able to hear that as we walk along.
Yeah.
Okay everyone, thank you for joining us. The lights are all lit along here. They're going to be shutting the gates at the moment. So anyway John, over to you.
The documentary, how's the documentary going?
The documentaries took us quite a long time to do, like I said earlier. You know, you can imagine how long a film will take in being filmed. And we've got part 1 and we've got a part 2. Now part 1 is not far off an hour long, but part 2, the parts in that we have to save for court. Because what I don't want is what happened to poor Hillsborough after 26 years, that when eventually they did get to court, the judge tucked it out on a technicality. So I have to make sure everything that we have is watertight with regards to the stuff that we're going to take to court. Now there's a lot that I can give and show the people of this nation what happened to our boys, because it's very important, because our boys are not an isolated case, which is what I keep telling everyone. And it's one of the main reasons I'm out here, because the fight for those 3 boys is what I do at home, the emailing, the sending of letters, the learning of the legal system, so that I can hold a private prosecution with myself, but just pay someone to aid in that, because as you know, we tried to raise funds back in 2018, the second GoFundMe was shut down, and from then on people lied. So you know, I said to everyone, I'm not going to fund, and that stopped on the 22nd of December 2018. A group of lovely mothers went out once after that to a Millwall game to raise funds. But for the boys, I didn't want any help with any funding after that, because everyone was lying about it.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you know, I'm not just fighting against the police here, I'm fighting against people the police pay to attack me online and lie about me online. So I don't have anything to do with funding other than the small amount that we're very grateful for that we did raise, which has been used for the boys throughout this journey.
Well, you know, you've always been honest about the funding.
Yeah.
The last time I did ask you was when you came up to Man United and we did a race there. You said you didn't have your little book on you, and I did video it, and I did say it for a couple of weeks after that what you'd made.
Yeah.
I can't remember the amount, sir, but you've never not said negative things. When I've asked about something, you've always told me, unless, like you said, it's something that's got to be saved for court.
Absolutely.
When I've asked for evidence, you've given it me. You've sent me the copy of the email letter from Nick Hurd. You've sent me the crash report. You sent me other things, and I've never felt that I've come up against a brick wall when I'm talking to you. You've always been honest with me, and I'm one for repeating. And if I remember correctly, when we come to Man United, I remember you said them figures for 3 weeks after. You actually only got this much, this. You lot, come on. And you know, so I mean, and I know now how it is that other people have gone against you and raised questions about the funding, but that was never in my heart, because you've always been honest with me, Tracy. You've always answered when I've asked. So
the fact of the matter is, I know you've got a good heart and you're a truthful person, and it all comes from a genuine place. Those people saying things like that are paid to say that about me online because it's a tactic. If you don't want people to hear a mother's story, what's the thing you do? You try and destroy her credibility. And that's what that's all about. And when people can see that these are just tactics, you know, people can become more aware of how they work, their psychological warfare, and what is really going on in the streets in the country we live in. And it's very paramount that people do see what is going on, because as I've said, and I've always said, and I may have said already on this live, I'm sorry if I repeat myself, our boys are not an isolated
No,
case.
they're not. They're definitely not. And even I know that now through meeting people who've lost children, you know, and there's been no justice. But it's not, again, I said this morning, it's not just. People might just think it's white people. It isn't. It's everybody who lives in this country, no matter what colour they are. People are being killed all the time. Black people, brown people, white people, yellow people, whatever. And it's being covered up.
And what I said to you earlier, and if people take this on board and really think about it, this is the actual fact. Exactly what you said. Everyone's being hurt, everyone's being used. But what they do, they hide the crimes to the white race. And I don't like to use colour because they use it, but they hide the crimes to the white race, and the reason why they do that is they wouldn't be able to use their racist agenda. If everyone knew that everyone was suffering and crimes was happening to everyone, they wouldn't be able to use that. Now, I've never said this was a racist crime, ever, because I wouldn't use something that I know that is used by the police and by the government to create divide in this country. Because as I've always said, a nation that is divided is a nation that can't stand and can't stand in unity. So they have to have a race that they hide the crimes that happen to, so they can have that racist agenda. Otherwise they would never be able to have it. If people knew what happened to white people.
Definitely, and I've been going on a lot about political correctness, how it's used to divide communities, not one particular community, all communities.
Absolutely.
To cause distrust in the other community, to cause animosity in the other community, which then will go on to creating violence and other things, you know. It's awful.
Well, it's also why when people come to this country that they tend to stick them in their own areas. So they stick everyone in their own areas to their own people so that they don't intermingle and mix, so then they don't talk, and then they create victimhood. And don't get me wrong, because there is victims, in all communities, but they create victimhood in each community to make just that community think it's just them.
Yeah.
And it isn't, it's all of us.
Yeah, and well, that's one of the things that Labour are good at doing, is exactly that. They've done that in Oldham for 40 years, and they've not got people to integrate and stuff like that. And we're just creating ghettos, and then obviously creating the ghettos, the distrust, like you said, then people feel like victims, just on and on, innit?
Yeah.
Just on and on.
And everyone feels like it's just them. And I know with our boys' case, and the pain is immense. You know, they've put me here, and then they attack me for being here. Yet they've put me here. And I know that it's not just happened to our boys. You know, and that's why I'm here, because I don't want another family to go through what we're going through. And I know they will go through what we're going through. And I know it's happened since this. And it's happened a lot before this.
So we've lit some of the lanterns.
Just to show you, look, they've stopped my comments. So I can't see any comments, so this is what Facebook do. I do apologise, people. I can see that there are people on this live, but I can't see any comments, unfortunately. There's one comment stuck there, so I'm sorry I can't write anything that if you're asking any questions right now. Oh, one more's come up. This poster today, John Lawrence put up. We do have one that Active put up.
Well, this
on
is
the anniversary.
This is Active's other banner, this.
Active's other banner.
So I brought this down, put it up, but I'm taking it back with me because I'm using it in Manchester. But I thought, for the 3 days I'm here, I want that banner there.
We have things in this country that they don't want us to talk about, and we have to talk about them, just like I have to talk, and they want to shut us all down. Like they treat me like I'm the criminal, and they continually harm me like they do anyone else who speaks out, or anyone else that's suffering. All they did to us families, the way us families were treated from the moment this happened, was with disrespect. They were using trauma-based programs on top of the trauma we were suffering. And the reason why they do that is because they do that because they don't want you to see what they're doing and what they've done to you and what they've done to these, and allowed. Because something John Lawrence said today when he filmed here earlier on, he said in his opinion, he believed they knew this was going to happen. And I totally agree. They knew this was going to happen. This was a premeditated murder. It wasn't someone driving down in their car and thinking at that moment, oh, there's children there. They knew that there was a party that had been booked at Goals. Yeah, you do not get that amount of children walking along this road. You know, we've been here often enough in the last 4 years to know that you don't get that here. You know, and that night, that party had been booked for quite a while. Many knew about it. It was on social media. And our poor boys, there was 5 young boys on this pavement when that car mounted at a slope. Shall I just show you, John?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you. We need to get these stories out there and what happened, to try and somehow, we need everything reforming. The police need reforming. The police covered this up. The police are the first port of call, aren't they? The first port of call to safeguard you in this country. Yet they're allowing these crimes and many others. Right, so it was a perfect spot to mount at a slope, and you've got an on this slope and you've got an off on this slope. And the people in that car only live 5 minutes away from here. They know this road very well.
Right.
Very well. So that's important to point out. Some reports say there was 2 in the car. Some say 3.
Yeah, the newspapers, a couple of reports in the newspapers said, one of them said there was at least 2 people in the car.
Yeah.
And another report said that there was more than 2 people in the car.
Yeah.
Really conflicting. Even though a lot of the reports state there was only 2, but research this up, you can look at all the reports in the case, and you will see that I'm right in what I'm saying there.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Julie. So my son, that's my son who landed in there. My son landed, went over the fence. It's quite a high fence.
I said that this morning. It's,
I don't know how high.
You have to clear 6 foot to get over here, because I'm 6 foot.
Yeah, and it's very high, and my son, my dear son, went over that fence. And the police never told me that. I found that out a few days later when I came to the scene by one of the other parents, because the children who were here that night and who witnessed that terrible thing that will live with them for the rest of their life. There's still some children that are having counselling now, and it's nearly 4 years on. And it was them telling one of the other parents that that's where my son landed, because I didn't know. Yet the police lied in their complaint report and said they told me, which they did not.
As well as, there wasn't just 3 lads here, there was another 2.
There was 5 young boys on this pavement. The car came on, aimed at all of them. It knocked the first 2 to the side. So the first 2 that were at the front, that end, were knocked to the side. Then it went on to hit George, it then went on to hit my son, and then it went on to hit dear Harry. And took Harry into that wall. So they then pulled up over there and they got out and ran. The 2 boys that got clipped to the side got up and ran after them, used all their energy after seeing that and got up. They caught one of them. Now, some of the media reports then tried to change it and tried to make the thing that was caught by those 2 boys the victim, by then trying to change the story that what happened at the garage happened before the incident, when it happened after. This was where that thing was being apprehended, one of the things, I'll say. Because they did not act alone. Sorry, I just wanted to show this off point. They did not act alone that night. Here's a plaque that we bought and put on the wall for the boys. You know, like for me, this is obviously a very sad place, but when you come here, like we do, and you light the candles, or I'll go in there and hang something on the tree or that, it just makes you feel like you're always doing something for them.
Yeah.
You know, so as much as it's a sad place, and it is a very sad place, it just makes you feel like you're doing something. Even though I'm fighting for them, that's different to coming and doing something for them.
Yeah,
Does that
of course.
make sense?
Yeah. Just showing them that. So there's that down slope again, so there's no curb.
Sorry,
there.
here's the down slope, everyone. I wanted to show you that this was a perfect on and off slope. Now that's not by coincidence. It's not by coincidence that of all this road where you've got a perfect on and off. And as I said, there was a lot of children on this road that night.
Were they going to the?
Yeah, ahead there, just round up there, around the bend, is Goals. They was going to a 16th birthday party on their way there. Now, just further up on the right, and I think you're going to show this tomorrow on your live stream. Yeah, is the fire service. Now, this was an incident with a car, and everyone knows the remit of what the police are, to seal a scene off, talk to witnesses. The ambulance crew are to tend to the patients, anyone who's injured, and the fire are called to deal with the car, whether there's spillages, whether it's going to blow up, whether someone's trapped. Well, that fire service would have took 17 seconds to get here. They would have had defibrillators on their engine. They would have had oxygen, because they carry all that medical equipment as well. They're meant to send the first appliance. They held off that fire engine. They did not allow that fire engine to enter this scene until 9:27. That was after my poor son and George, who didn't die instantly, even though the police told us that they died instantly. They didn't die instantly after the death of Josh and George. Harry died instantly. Josh and George didn't, and they held that fire service off. Now it's a thing called the golden hour, so they have an hour to preserve life in. And they didn't do that. One paramedic turned up at the scene. trying to deal with a scene like this. One paramedic in a car, first of all, and it was the children that was taking all the equipment out of the paramedics vehicle. The children to try and help save their friends. I just have to wait a sec. Give me 30 seconds.
So I've mentioned this before, I mentioned about that ambulance before, and it is just down there. I'll be taking photos and I will go down there later on and I'll show you, but I have mentioned it before. And you know, you just, like I said, and you know this because you've looked at how the ambulance, the fire engine's supposed to respond, and anybody who knows anything about car crashes and things like that know that the fire service is one of the most important
Absolutely.
things. People could be trapped in cars, which you often do get after anything. And it's the fire service that get them out. It's not the paramedics. No. It's not the police, the fire service.
Absolutely.
So they should have been here straight away. Straight away.
All the calls were transferred and diverted that night. It was gold paged. I did a live feed the other day and tried to explain this. So our boys' incident was gold paged. Now that is mentioned in the paramedics' reports that we have. So we have the evidence of that. The police didn't mention it in theirs because they wanted to hide it. Yeah, but the paramedics mentioned it, that it was gold paged. If you research gold page, that means all 99 calls are then diverted off to a different control centre, which was Lambeth. Now, if anyone looks up what is based at Lambeth, that will give you an idea of why this was strategically turned into a gold page. From there, we've listened to some 999 calls. There is the same woman answering certain calls, and both times she gives the wrong instructions. And one of them is a very urgent medical response that this man needed. And the same voice gave the wrong medical instruction that could have aided in the death of George. 10 minutes before that, we had a youngster run over to George's dad and tell him that George looks like he's going to be okay. Well, that didn't happen. And when you hear that call, very select few people have heard that call. And when you hear that call, it's shocking that this is someone who's meant to be trained, gave that medical response. I don't want to say what it is because obviously we need things for court. So that's the only reason I'm not saying what the response was, but we have no doubt that could have aided in the death of George.
I hope everyone's getting that. I know the sound isn't always good on this road because it's that noisy and busy. But I am gonna be, and James are gonna be focusing more on the three boys case. Certainly now, after this, we're gonna be doing videos. We'll go through the evidence again, so we'll show you the crash report that we've shown a few times. Anything that's already been shown, and we will show again, and we'll talk a bit more in depth. But how many police officers do you think were involved in all
Well,
this?
going through all the police statements and going through the statements where they mention other names, it adds up to 52 or more. And since, because obviously we've put, they called it a complaint. It's not a complaint, is it, when you're talking about cover-up and corruption of 3 youngsters' murders, but they try and get away with it by calling it a complaint. So there's more on top of that since.
And I mean, to people who live in London and vote, don't think that your MPs are going to help you on things, because they didn't help Tracy. You've had meetings with Sadiq Khan. Go on.
What they do, we had a meeting with Sadiq Khan, and what they do at that meeting, and it's a common thing they all do. So you have a meeting, at that meeting they say, yes, we'll get you this, or we'll get you that disclosure, or we'll get you what you want, and everything else. You go away, you leave the meeting and think, well, this is great, they're going to do what they said they're going to do. You wait so many weeks, you don't hear from them, you email them, and then they email you back and say they misunderstood the meeting. And that is how they play their game. That's how they play their game.
Unbelievable.
Show the 3 boys.
Was this one of the boys' tops, this?
It was actually my son's.
Oh.
And his first girlfriend, who was a beautiful young lady. His first girlfriend that he didn't actually let me know about till they were seeing each other for 3 months, as they do. And they was out one night and she was cold, so he actually took his sweatshirt off and only had a t-shirt on, and he gave her that.
Oh.
And then she'd always kept it, and obviously when this happened she wanted to bring it down and put it up there.
I can just imagine now what all the rest of them kids who were here that night must think about what's gone on. They all know must have all seen lies. They must all watch when they seen the reports, when the media first come out, they must have all, yeah, but that's not what happened.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. That's not what happened.
Yeah. We've got enough witnesses, to say what those children witnessed at the scene and what they said happened at the scene, which was they killed their friends and they deliberately done it. There was no turning of the wheel. There was no avoidance of our boys, of all the boys on this pavement. That's why they didn't use one youngster from this scene and used someone that we can prove statement doesn't match the scene and wasn't at the scene.
Right, yeah, which is the lad who has been on the main news reports, because they showed only three witnesses. The Indian guy with the turban on.
Oh no, he wasn't even a witness.
No, not a witness. So he wasn't here either.
No, they never showed anyone in the news
who was here,
who saw that happen. The gentleman with the turban wasn't here. We've actually looked him up because they claim on the news that he was a Metropolitan Police officer. He wasn't. He did work at the Met, but he was a diversity consultant. He wasn't a police officer.
Right, yeah. Just a consultant, yeah. But obviously the media show that so that people think it's true. It's coming from a copper. Yeah. He must know what's right. He must know what's right.
And what they said, because he said about his son being hurt on this road as well. But what he didn't say, that his son was in a car. His son wasn't walking on a pavement, So they leave that bit out to divert people away from the truth, so people already think in their head, without him mentioning that his son was in a car, that, his son must have been driven. No, his son wasn't. His son was in a car. It's nothing compared to this. And he wasn't a Met officer. He worked for the Met, but he was a diversity consultant. Consultant
is not a serving police officer.
No, exactly. But that's another thing we came across through our investigation. We found that out because we investigated everything. Because their aim that night, they done no investigation. Every time I was talking to the police, and specifically a sergeant, all she'd do is turn up with a little black book, sit there. You couldn't see in the black book, and she would turn a page and say, sorry, we haven't got an answer to that. You'd ask another one, she'd say the same thing, and she'd just keep saying the same thing, and she'd say, well, I'll come back to you on that, and never did. Right, I'm just going to end mine. So I'm going to carry on speaking to John, and sorry, it's just because I've got phone calls coming through and I've got to answer some of them. I apologise to anyone that has spent their time watching this live feed tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you to your support. Thank you to anyone sharing for our boys. And thank you to John Lawrence that's spending today and tomorrow at the scene, filming and trying to help to get the story out. And anyone in Oldham, please look up John Lawrence, because he will be standing next year as a councillor. Thank you everyone for your time and for listening. It's so appreciated. Justice for our boys is justice for everyone else, because we need accountability. Without accountability, this is going to continue. I didn't know what was going on in this country, but I do now. And you don't want this coming to your door. When my son went out that night, I expected my son to come home. He went out all excited. And I'm not going to see him again. And you don't want that. Thank you for watching.